Yeah, that's not hard. I just don't have the
He's
hair for it.
he's DJing somewhere. All I'm seeing on Facebook is he keeps posting old photos of his DJ gear or himself. He must be like emptying old photo boxes or something.
You hit that sweet spot with the Facebook memories thing. It's like, oh yeah, that was a really fun time in my life.
Oh, I see. I haven't been on Facebook like all week.
You missed out on a lot.
Yeah.
I, I check the election results every minute. Looks like this guy named Jaoud Mansour has called Nevada for Trump. That's a joke.
That's oh gosh, I'm not
It's
touching that one. Dealer
Dealer Venom.
Venom, dude.
Dealer Venom has called the state of Nevada for Trump. Book it. It's right there.
Oh man,
That was really funny, Joe.
you like that?
I crack myself up sometimes.
Well, if Jude's calling
I
it,
sent
that's a done thing.
sent Alex. I sent Bryce a little meme that says, "I thought that if an election lasts this long, you're supposed to call your doctor."
By the way, people can hear us, so
Oh,
Okay.
I wish we had that on camera. Your facial reaction to that one, Joe, was pretty good.
I'll tone it down from here on out.
Oh, you're all right. It's just Alan Cooper right now. He's probably
I was
laughing
going to
his
say
ass
it's a good
off.
thing. Good thing nobody tunes into this show.
Right. What the hell are y'all doing here?
Right. I was just having lunch and somebody texted me to click a button, so here I am. Seriously, if Jeff doesn't show up, I mean, I may have to request a recount.
Yeah, seriously. Well, it sounds like Alan Cooper's got to call his doctor about his election.
Oh gosh.
Did they make a pill for that yet?
A pill for a pill. We all need an election pill for sure.
All right. Well, we're
Um,
going on camera in three, two, one. Now they can't just hear you; they can see you too.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now it's
Fantastic.
scary and real. So, welcome back, guys. I don't think either of you need an introduction here, especially Bryce. I think you've earned your blue jacket.
I love coming. It's my favorite show to come on. Evidently, I wore Jeff out though, so
Yeah, we lost Jeff. Don't know
uh,
where he went.
well,
So
based on his Facebook feed, I think he's either DJing or rummaging through his old box of hats and sunglasses from the '80s.
yeah, probably definitely living a
He
memory
ages.
now.
He ages pretty well, though. You got to hand it to the guy. You know.
So you still think he looks like he's DJing in his high school days?
I didn't say that. I said he ages well.
He's definitely got better hair than some of us.
Some, not all.
And one thing that happens when Jeff isn't here, we do have to talk about his hair. And if you've ever been to a conference with Jeff and you're planning to be somewhere, especially before the noon hour, you tell Jeff to be there about 2 hours before you're going to be there, and then he'll be on time. It's typically because he's doing his hair.
It's all hair cure related.
That's right. He's got to get his curlers out and straightener and all that good stuff and make sure it poofs just the right amount. So,
Uh,
but Outside
So,
of giving Jeff a bunch of crap, what have you all been up to?
Well,
trying to figure out how to do conferences right now, which has been kind of an interesting, odd thing that we're probably going to do once and then never again. Hopefully,
Still,
we'll see.
this is the first time though we've done every conference, digital dealer, driving sales, Kane. What else are you doing, Joe? I mean,
you get some
I think
Pash
it's
ones.
NADA is coming up. We didn't do Pash.
There's
but
one
I
in
heard that was a very good one.
week and a half.
Yeah, we that was the one we kind of opted out on. Just so many unknowns about how it was going to work, kind of coming into the season. So as always, just try to mitigate some risk in some ways, but kind of miss it. Miss shaking hands, miss the by the kind of byproducts of being around a bunch of industry folks. Uh, be happy to get back to it.
Yeah, for sure. I actually shook someone's hand the other day. It felt weird.
Hmm.
It's like we forgot how
are
to
we
socialize.
sitting? Is this allowed?
Totally.
I also didn't have a face
Where-
mask on. It was like it was full on handshake. Um,
How do dealers feel about these conferences in the virtual nature? I mean, they're missing out on a lot of exposure and education, things like that. I haven't had a conversation with a dealer about it yet. Have you, Alex or Joe?
Spoken to a few. So it's convenient, much like watching a Refresh Friday or any of the other streamed stream sessions like these. They can be at their desk. They can have it playing in the background. They can listen in. Yeah, obviously they're not giving it their full undivided attention all the time, but they're also paying a fraction of the price. They're not traveling. They're able to continue doing their day job. So there's some upside there. But the networking aspect is always the one that is most missed, and I believe that's the vendors feel that way. I mean, I know we all do. Um, I'm pretty sure the dealers do too.
They haven't figured out how to translate the demo at all. So our very small marketing team, is getting us involved so we can plan around how to execute on the NADA still. Uh, and that's the one kind of big void, I think, Joe, that we're hearing. This, like, how do you bring people into your virtual booth? If you're sitting at digital
Right.
dealer, even if you're walking the halls at driving sales, you're seeing plenty of people, and you can sit down, show me something new. What do you have? And that hasn't really been replicated with these virtual shows, that I can tell.
Yeah, the first Pash event I think had the best version of networking that I've seen of any of the ones I've attended so far, where they had two things. They had a universal chat room, so anybody could be in there and blabbing. It was actually ended up being a lot of spamming, but so is the nature of this industry. But you also had these sort of speed dating sessions. So you'd be on camera and you'd have, I think it was like a minute and a half or 3 minutes where some random person in the conference would just pop up and you're having a one-to-one conversation with them. So
Hmm.
it's an interesting way to do it.
Yeah. It's so hard to manufacture that, and even with like our API partners and things like that, like you guys, Alex, I mean, so much good, just collaborative stuff comes from standing around and spitballing on what our products do and what they can do.
Especially with an icy beverage in hand.
It all gets
We've
better
got
after that.
we've got some ideas actually, on how to replicate the food and drink aspect of NADA virtually. So marketing teams trying to figure out how we can still connect, via these normal, otherwise, booth benefits, but do it across the country in a virtual world.
Grubhub 5,000 dealers.
The Grubhub budget is increasing substantially.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, one day I can tell you how much we spent on NADA at dealer.com. Um, that'll make you feel like you're not spending much.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was hefty. Um, Speaking of NADA and going virtual, we at Frickin' Tech had a board meeting yesterday, and we really dove in deep on whether it was worth it to go or not.
So let's talk about that because I know you got some vendors on here, right? We looked at the packages, and it looked to me like there was clearly a cutoff of if you're going to do it, you got to start it. I think we're allowed to say $15,000 package,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you're 15 or
Platinum
25
package.
grand, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's depending upon the size of the company and where you are and what you think you can do. Do you have customer base that's going to drop into the virtual booth? Um, it's a hard decision.
It's really not. It's not unlike the physical show. I mean, if we've always kind of contended that if you're not going to go kind of big at NADA, then don't booth. Our entry point at Trade Pending was a 20 by 20. So the virtual booth is not unlike that.
I mean, granted, we snuck a couple of cheap couches through the back door, but we paid for the booth space, by goodness.
But think about it. So, like, this might be an education, and I know we probably said this on prior Refresh Fridays, so forgive us if this isn't new to you. But as a dealer, it is interesting to hear what kind of costs the vendors have to go through to get to NADA, especially a physical event. So when you think about it, you got to buy the floor space, and that's 5 figures. If you're truly participating, you want decent real estate. That's where that is alone. And then most of these convention centers have unions, and so the labor rates for the unions are different, and you have to use the convention center's unions. There's no choice for anything, like anything. Yeah. And always, every time you get to NADA, oh yeah, hold on, let me go back a few steps. There's the tchotchke you got to buy, so everyone's got to give away something free, and it's usually whatever's the hot new thing right now. So whatever
The
that
internet
might be.
power. You forgot internet power.
Yeah, I'm getting there. That one's
Oh,
always the fun one. Yeah, that's that last one you didn't budget for that just comes out of the end of day one. Um, so there's the flying everybody out there, and the time of year that NADA typically happens for people who live in the north. That's insanely difficult. I can't tell you how many times the entire dealer.com 50 of us got stuck, either getting there or coming back. We did Louisiana one, I can't remember what year it was, but we got stuck down there for a week. There were 50 and this was after the show. A week after the show, we were stuck on Bourbon Street, basically. Not going to say it wasn't a fun time, but but eventually the CFO did the math, and he was like, you know how much productivity and stuff we're losing, and the CEOs there, the CFOs there,
Mm-hmm.
all vice presidents, all chief people, all the directors, anybody is. So he just started doing the math and was like, okay, screw this. We're going to buy a private jet and just get you all out of there. There's no sense in waiting for commercial flights because this is just getting way too costly. So there's that, and then you've got to clothe people. So most of the people there have new uniforms that have the company logos on them and things like that. And put them up in hotels and feeding them. Usually there's a party. You're definitely going to wine and dine a client or three, and those dinners aren't cheap. And then lastly, to your point, Bryce, and tell me if I'm missing anything, but there's that, we bought the second tier bandwidth package, and there's like 5 more tiers. So you're like, oh, that second tier sounds good. And then you get there and realize that the actual speed the second tier gives you, like, can't even support a cell phone. And how much is the next tier up per day?
It's like
10
Right.
grand.
hours. Totally.
You forgot about the carpet and the extra thick padding too.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Yep.
It would definitely
You,
spring for the extra thick padding.
if you want to
Yeah.
measure people's investment, you have to look up, though, right? It's those folks who choose for rigging, hanging from the ceiling. That's 5 digits alone. So if you can figure out how to just get something that doesn't rig, you've basically economized to be able to buy drinks for everybody that comes to your booth. It's
Wow.
been our strategy, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jim, I'll never pronounce your last name right, so I'm not even going to try. But he was just saying that he heard Cox spends $1 million just for floor space.
Believe it.
Sure.
They my buddies over there they said that the last one had over 500 employees, Cox employees at NADA. So that's not cheap.
So
No doubt.
I don't think I'm exposing anything here from a prior life, but the mindset and the idea, and I think it's a really good one, in spending that kind of money on NADA is as a technology business that lives off of monthly recurring revenues. Um, you look at your financials on an annual basis, and that's a February, late January event, and if you can sell a certain number of dealers your product at the event, it actually sets you up for the rest of the year quite nicely. So it's a very nice jump off point, and that's the real value.
Think about it too for like product improvements and launches. I mean, even this year we have some late year and January product launch going on, and you want to have a concentration of demonstration and customer feedback to figure out how to sell that product more. So if you're doing that all in the first 2 months of the month, guess what? Second, third quarter, you're just sliding through. Everybody's got the experience, you got the momentum, you got a full bucket of leads, and you got a huge surplus of feedback to then take back to the dev shop as well.
That's a great point. Great point.
Yeah, I think also too, there's a perception that you don't sell or close deals at NADA. I hear a lot of vendors saying that, and we've experienced the exact opposite. That, and maybe it's the nature of our product lines, but we do a pretty good job of closing deals on site, which also is but from a budget standpoint, just gets us out of the blocks first thing in the year, right?
Yeah, Alan Cooper is just echoing exactly that sentiment too.
Yep.
If you're not there to close deals, that's you must have a different strategy. Yep. But anyway, on a different note.
That's why we hire really old school sales guys and gals.
Well, you got to get yourself some. Do we call them booth creatures now? I mean, can we still call them booth?
I think those went away like in 2016. I think.
Right.
As soon as that marketing company that had the Playboy bunnies and all the company, who was that? Alpine Marketing. They did all the direct marketing or direct mail for OEMs. Somebody help me on there. Paul Schnell, you know who it was. They had the 4 Playboy bunnies always positioned. There was nobody else in the booth. There was like one other person in the booth, but then they had the 4 corners of the bunnies, which seemed to be a complete waste of time. But yeah,
I think at this point it diminishes your message.
I think so. I agree.
So that's so that was the argument that was made in our board meeting yesterday. It was like, can you still get your message out there without being at a virtual conference for NADA this year? So like, if you were going to spend 15 grand on the show, which is far less than what you would normally spend on the show, so it seems like a great bargain. But if you had that extra money, what could you do with it? And other communications, and still keep in mind the vendors our job is to sell and convert. So that was just saying that
Yeah,
was an argument and an exploration idea that we were having yesterday, and it's still up in the air for us. So
I don't I don't think that there's a comparison. It doesn't. You can't spend 15 grand, and get it's lost basically. Like the gap of the feedback and the concentrated customer conversations and prospecting opportunities, demonstrations, seeing competitors, partners, like Trade Penny, like we're not going to be able to replicate, which is making me really sad now that I'm thinking about it. Alex, thank you. But
yeah,
lost opportunity, I think, for dealers too, because dealers want to provide us feedback. Dealers want to walk into the booth and see what everybody's been working on. Aspen. Thank you, Ryan Leslie. It was Aspen Marketing. You're correct.
and Paul chipped in there too. So
All right.
credit all around.
stuff of legends.
Dominion Dealer Solutions booth always used to be right next to Aspen. I'm not sure how that always worked out, but anyway, that strategy.
I think the greatest tragedy of this year is that we had a running joke about how bad our booth placement is, which is something they don't really talk about as a young company, that you got to accumulate these points. And at the NOLA Convention Center, we were like at the front doors. It was going to be the best booth placement we've ever had in our life. And now we got to do it virtually.
That's how it goes, man. But to your point,
I do think.
Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say our general strategy is, we're going to spend about half as much. And so our revenue expectations, we're cutting in half. Right. So if we hit that, then it's still a successful event.
Well, which is a good lead into what my question was, which is what are dealers going to be doing? Usually you're hitting a fresh budget also at NADA, right? Dealers have kind of cleared some room for what they want to do. They come, trying to shop, or they've got some ideas on what they want to make decisions on. But I'd be super interested, maybe Paul Schnell or others out there, like how are dealers looking at their budget? There's 2 months left in the year. Who knows what to predict for 21? What a wild 20 they had. And so I'm super interested in maybe what you're hearing, Alex, or other folks on here. It's a little bit early, I know, but this is the time that you start thinking about it.
Well, this has been and I guess we're having like all about the inside of a vendorship on this show, and it's which is, I would think is interesting to others. And if I were sitting at Checkered Flag, I'd be like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. And I was always curious about how vendors ran and what was their motivations and things like that. And so I hope that what we're talking about brings relevance and maybe answers some curious questions for others. But, if you look at this year, it's not a year that anyone could see coming. Nobody knew a pandemic was coming, and this whatever's going on politically, it would all come in and sort of crash together. And it's been an interesting year. Joe, I'd be curious to hear if you've experienced this as well with like social media spending, for example. You go into an election year, that trying to compete for ad dollars is difficult in the months of October and September, in that first part of November. But take it a step further, with the pandemic, we lost sports. And so all of the advertisers who had these gigantic TV budgets to put on sports now had a ton of money to put into social media. And so what's the word I'm looking for? Let's just call it the social media got a little more difficult to make a dollar go as far from, let's say, April on. So if you were having great results with Facebook, for example, those summer months got a little, just sort of got funky. Sorry, Jeff's hitting me up. Looks like he's going to join us now.
He's been doing his hair for 22 minutes.
Yeah, and so there was that going on in the summertime, and then you had this added thing of this crazy election, which turned the social media channels into, especially Facebook, into dumpster fires. And I don't know, like I have been shying away from it. You know, I'll admit it, and we'll probably get knocked off of Facebook in the next second. But um, like the only reason I come on Facebook these days is for Refresh Friday. You know, it's too painful to go on there and watch friends fighting friends over stupid shit. Oh, sorry. In my opinion, it seems trivial stuff is what they're ripping each other apart with. So I don't want to watch that. Um, and I think that there's a number of people that have also felt that way, and they're so the ads just aren't getting in front of the eyeballs like they once were.
Yeah, from a vendor perspective, we don't really dabble a whole lot in the ad game, partly because we find it really difficult to find the buying personas that we're personally looking for at the dealership. Used car managers and GMs aren't on Facebook looking for better trade tools or inventory merchandising tools. But I tend to agree that my Facebook is primarily professional. And I'm a little shocked at how polarized it got over the last 6 months.
Yeah.
It is not a reliable news channel.
No.
Yep. So yeah, it's definitely changed a bit. It's been a weird year. So, right, getting back to like how can you make all of this networking that we want while we're all sitting at home and not able to come together in a certain city in the country. How do we make that happen and do it in a place where the politics and people's feelings about other things that aren't business related don't get in the way. And I would say like Dealer Refresh might be a good place to come. um, and that's one of the things we are toying with Brian Pash right now for his next event, where once the event's over, we'll look at combining forces and getting some of the better content from as on Dealer Refresh. So that might be. Well, we're still experimenting and see what works. See if we can start conversations that weren't happening during the event.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I hope dealers are more open minded. Like, well, since we're talking about vendors, we're doubling up our inside sales efforts. We've long had an outside sales force, albeit small, but we've had more and better conversations. From the inside, dealers are more acceptable to Zoom meetings, I think, than ever. Would you agree, Alex? Oh, you're seeing that?
Oh yeah.
So it's like, I just ask dealers, like, let us in, give us 20 minutes, give us 10 minutes. That's all you got. That's fine. 10 minutes is good. And then hopefully that, we can still have these interactions we're going to be missing, from the shows. And not pure sales interactions, but, it's ideations, and it's seeing where, the market's going and seeing what vendors trying to do to be able to help you going forward.
Speaking of that, that's another good topic. Where is the market going? Anyone want to throw a prediction out on that one?
Joe, you want to go first?
Yeah. So I think that what we're going to see is similar to maybe 10 years ago, where people are going to be keeping their cars a little bit longer. I think that over the next year or so, you're going to see emphasis on fixed ops, efficiency. And then one thing that we started tracking through the pandemic was the 100 most in supply vehicles and what the pricing trends around those vehicles were. And even though it's normalized, it's still, above the average price of that 100 most in supply vehicles are still above where they were in January. And I think that you probably got another 6 months before the kind of new car supply comes back to normal, hopefully, and maybe the used car squeeze eases a bit, but I still think it's going to be a battle next year with Carvana getting more aggressive and all those other players in the market kind of putting pressure on franchise dealers.
Yeah, I think the wholesale market continues to get so competitive that you can't actually compete um, as a franchise dealer. Maybe if you have incredibly big scale, but that 20-25% of supply that you used to get from auction to then retail, that goes away. So your only opportunity, is going to be on trade. That's where I feel. And today, let's face it, because the used vehicle pricing environment is retaining high, the opportunity for gross on used remains very, very high in ancillary products. So, barring any kind of major political outcome, are you looking at some type of major recession? I'm not really economist to be able to predict that. I tend to think in our world we're all going
Are we losing you, Bryce? We're getting a little hard to hear you.
Sorry, that was the helicopter going by.
Ah, so
No,
one
but I
of
was
those
going to
black
finish. I think,
helicopters.
yeah, the internet's hanging on. But I think in the end, yeah, new car supply is going to be back online. Consumers are going to be traveling a ton. I think that, as always, dealers are going to figure out how to make money, and we're going to do well.
Yeah, we'll definitely crush it again for sure.
I think we're all fortunate to be in a pretty resilient industry. A lot of other industries are prone to these whipsaw changes, but it seems like automotive in general has pretty soft edges, even in down economies.
Yeah. So focus on service for a little bit. Acquire what you can at the door. Time to get a little creative if possible. Kind of would be the advice.
If you could only do one thing and just refine your own used vehicle acquisition process, hone in on that, right? Recognize, obviously we're biased, but recognize the value of a trade, the value of a trade lead. You get a customer, you get a car, you sell a car. Like, what other equivalent do you get for that? Then you're organically kind of depending on your own ability to source traffic to your website and start conversations. So if you kind of narrow it down to the simple things, as always, it's about getting eyeballs on cars. So you set up all the other things that allow you to do deals efficiently. Give consumers the information they want while they're shopping, and then you're gonna be fine.
Yep. Yeah. There was.
That easy?
Damn it! I just forgot it. I got distracted by. I think Jeff's trying to join us, but he's getting some technical difficulties getting in. So we will march on.
I will say that one of the like kind of interesting knock-on effects of, at least anecdotally from our dealers, is everybody had to get a little bit more smart and efficient over the last 8 months. So not only did we see traffic go up, but we saw utilization of our tool, form completions, total conversions. It was because of the squeeze on inventory. Dealers looked at those opportunities totally differently. They were now, pure gold. And so I think everybody actually had to tighten up a little bit to their benefit over the last 8 months.
Start working smart again.
Yeah.
Crazy notion.
And cut loose all the stuff that's unnecessary.
Right. Yeah. So what is unnecessary? And like the dealers went through some cuts when the forced quarantining was going on, and they were non-essential businesses. So there was drastic cuts in memory of 2008. And then, went into the summer months with phenomenal sales. I mean, customers, tired of being stuck at home with nothing better to do, were like, yeah, I'll spend 6 hours in a dealership. Hell yeah. Sounds great. Get me away from these kids for a little bit. And just busting down the doors to buy cars mixed with the great incentives that were there. And then also another one that I wasn't aware of, we had a guest on here a little while ago who was talking about how there's another segment of the population that had taken advantage of the situation and got into basically sign and drive deals without payments for 6 months with no intention to actually make their first payment. And that kind of stuff might be coming back soon. But you had these customers knocking down the doors, and dealers were.
Wait, is that Scott Painter's new deal that you were just talking about?
I don't know whose deal that was.
That was the fair deal, was that no intention to make a payment deal.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I read that Scott's got a new he's got another new venture going on. So looking forward to hearing more about that.
I don't know enough about that one yet. I'll have to check that out too.
I'll shoot.
There's also a weird. We saw a weird confluence too, and I think Paul Schnell might have pointed this out. The first one that kind of brought it up to me, which was a bunch of people came out of the market during like the throes of the pandemic. So like people February, March, that maybe were coming out of leases or, were in market, had to just kind of go on ice for a minute. So then you have April, May, June, where you have current market people, but also people that were in market coming back in.
Yeah, I hear you, David Metter. So
David Metter's throwing some insults here.
I know I'm trying to be nice to our guests. I'm throwing echoes at them, so I've got the volume way down, so they're not hearing themselves. So I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing Bryce in particular, but still, I got to be quicker on Bryce for sure. But yeah, going back, so we get back to how much better can dealers get on, what else can they cut? And after all the things that they did cut, and it might not have brought back in full by now. So, which was probably a smart move. What else is there to look at and get more efficient with on the budget? Any ideas? The audience too?
I think that it's a good question. I think that, you pointed out the digital ad world, that's already been tightening from an ROI perspective, so if you're not paying for traffic, how are you going to get creative with, I think like Paul Schnell said, let's work your database, drive traffic back to your site. How are you merchandising, on your site? How are you going to keep people on your site? Maybe you can dial into your site metrics and make sure that people are staying on longer, looking at more pages, checking out different cars. Let's face it, how many dealers switched websites in the last year? With GM opening up the program from CDK, we have, I'd say 4 to 5% of our customer base goes through a website switch every month. So now that and it's interesting because we've got a pretty wide swath of coverage across all website platforms. So yeah, back to foundational stuff. So you made the website switch, which has been aggressive the last 12 to 18 months. And so how are you going to clean up your house, keep people engaged and on site, and then keep your processes focused on. I don't think you can pay your way into getting enough traffic in 21.
I've got a crazy one. So I've actually been surprised, and maybe there's a method to this that I am not aware of, but I've come across a number of dealer websites of late that have multiple trade-in forms on them. So they'll have KBB, Edmunds, Black Book, and trade pending. And it's like
So
maybe
funny.
there's a
I was
little
just
bit
about
of
to say,
overlap.
Alex, we had an email floating around yesterday where there were so many top banners on the SRP that the vehicles were actually well below the fold. So to even get to inventory, you had to scroll past all the vendors that were on there. And so I would say if your SRP and your VDPs look like a NASCAR jacket, maybe you need to like take a closer look at attribution and which one of those things is actually helping, and then make some decisions based on that.
And do you still need the COVID pop up?
Right.
Yeah.
That example, by the way, I did feel somewhat responsible for. There was a, hey, digital retail will sell cars online banner, followed by two competitive, trade tools, literally just the same call to action using the type ahead that we introduced to the market 7 years ago. And what was the bottom one, Joe? I think the bottom one was a payment calculator using a type ahead.
Yeah, payment calculator.
So there was like 3 type ahead experiences right there in front of me on the SRP. There was 0 cars. And I said, I kind of feel personally responsible for that disaster. But the opportunity for the customer is to get rid of at least 3 of them, just get one, and then they'll be much better off.
A clear path of action. It's a novel idea.
It is a novel idea.
Although the OEMs, some of them are requiring specific CTA calls to action on the dealers' websites. So, like, I'll leave them nameless, but one in particular is enforcing basically a get price, get your price kind of thing. And then also you've got to have a credit application on there. And then the dealers typically want to have their 2 or 3 favorite ones on there. And you end up with 5 to 7 calls to action, 2 of which are mandated. And sometimes even the call to action the OEM wants is the same one the dealer wants, but because they both want it phrased differently, you end up with the same thing happening on 2 buttons that actually just say different words. It's confusing.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, we also see a little bit of like the call to action takeover going on, where it's like you hit a call to action, but what it actually does isn't what that call to action says. Jeff.
Gentlemen, what's happening?
Hey.
Where you been?
So you're talking about the mandatory VDP call to actions?
Yeah.
And you said who's I figured that would happen once the digital retailing came out and all the dealers, all the OEMs wanted to enforce that. So I figured you'd see some type of buy now, mandatory buy now price or something like that. Are there any ones that have a mandatory for trade-in value?
No, not that I know of.
That question was for you. That question was for you, Joe.
Not that I know of.
Oh, Bryce, you're not allowed.
By the way, Jeff, you have the same time management skills as my wife. So,
something went down, so it wasn't on purpose.
Long line at Arby's?
Yes. I needed my roast beef. Yes. Hey, there's one out in Ohio. You guys want to take a road trip?
Yeah, I do badly. I'll pick you up.
Let's do it. Let's do it, man. We'll go out. No, not Arby's. We want to go to Rax. Rax, the last Rax is out in Ohio. Yes, Rax is. Rax, they got the last Rax out in Ohio somewhere. Let's go visit. We'll all get a roast beef sandwich. Maybe they'll still have the old school baked potato bar.
That sounds
I never ate
good.
a Rax. It was a pretty dope hat though that you had. So
It is a pretty nice hat, isn't it? Try to keep it.
So how many times do we have to be on dealer refresh before we get one of the microphones? Is that like a 5-timer or is that 10-time? What level do we have to be at?
You'll have to do the math on that.
I don't know. Yeah, Alex, how many did we do before we got these? I think it's close to 1,000.
Okay. Sweet.
We'll be there in like 85 years, Joe.
We'll have you on.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. There's a great question. I'll throw it up on the screen for us all. So Jim, again, not pronouncing your last name, but Jim and I were talking offline earlier on Dealer Refresh, and he's got some good stuff. But related to calls to action, do you all, Trade Pending, have any data on superlative actions that are getting clicked on?
We do.
So his question.
Who's going to talk?
You're a little soft for me,
Yeah,
Bryce, but we'll all be quiet.
I'll take it.
Let you talk.
So we can. All right. So here's the deal with superlatives: is it automatically applies based on that piece of inventory against whatever the market forces are. So those things change, right? So every night they can toggle. Today a car's a really good deal contextually. Tomorrow it's more in demand. So his question was more about, are there individual superlatives that perform better than others? And that's kind of a hard target to hit because it's moving. But in general, what we see from people who interact with superlatives are they stay on the site longer, they're more likely to return, they hit more pages, and thereby are more likely to convert through a tool like our trade tool.
Yep.
So those shoppers are more engaged and become more engaged.
So superlatives increase the time on site, or I should say the time on page?
Correct.
Interesting.
That makes a lot of sense. Now? There's more to chew on.
A little bit. Yeah, it does make sense. I've always been a fan of the superlatives. Matter of fact, many years ago, does anyone here remember Pure Cars?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. I use Pure Cars.
By the way, they just bought their business back. So it's the original crew.
Really?
At the helm. Yeah.
Jeremy.
Yep.
Jeremy Onspach.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. I like Jeremy a lot. Dude, he had a solid product. It was that Pure Cars Pure Cars vehicle report or something. I think it was something like that. It was a trade-in. But then he had the superlatives. And what I liked most about it was if you gave him access to your service end, he would look to see, did it have, he would look for service codes or names. So it would say, new brakes, fresh oil change, whatever the car had done to it. If it was, sort of a common maintenance thing, brakes and such, they would, they had a separate superlative for that. Bryce, you guys are down into the DMS to grab information, right?
No, we're not actually looking at the DMS, but I was gonna, add a little bit of flavor to Alex's original question too, which is also to your point. So we've got a lot of customers who create custom superlatives, and you can put in inventory feeds, certain codes that trigger, matching stock numbers that we can match superlatives for. So all that can be accomplished. But what consumers are engaging with quite a bit is the things that they can't see anywhere else. So the demand side metrics of superlatives have been surprisingly popular. So when you look at what makes a car in demand or popular, did I just...
Were you popular? I'm playing with the camera.
Were you popular in high school, Bryce?
What do you think, Jeff?
No.
What are you talking about? I went to high school at a small school in Kentucky, like 50 people.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's why you were popular.
Yeah, I guess.
You didn't have a choice. You had to be.
High school was all right. So anyhow, yes. I feel like I'm getting teased in high school from Jeff, the DJ bully. But there's a lot of ways to define demand, right? So we are just constructing a whole new view of superlatives around how quickly your car sells versus the broader market, days on market, versus a region of data, versus a state of data, versus a fixed kind of radius. And then we should compare about, popularity of, your vehicle versus other vehicles in its class. So versus other, small SUVs, how quickly does your car sell versus other vehicles sell? How quickly does this large SUV that I'm marketing sell in our region as tight as possible versus other large SUVs? So there's like an infinite number of demand side metrics that we can establish to a consumer to try to show them, which dealers understand this. They know when they get that type of vehicle, that class of vehicle in their area, if it's going to be a quick mover or it's not. And devoid of that information, the consumer has no idea why you're holding firm on your negotiation, why you're priced the way you are. So there's nothing to talk about. But if they come to your site and understand all those things, what's the chance that they actually, now they've gained a little more information, may be willing to engage with you to buy your car, or as it rolls back to the trade, sell you theirs. So
makes sense.
Think about demand. Supply and demand move markets. That's
well, especially right now.
Everything we do. That's from exactly.
Excuse you.
Bless me. And yes, I was very popular in high school.
That was also a supply and demand issue, though.
It always has been, Joe. Always has been.
That was the chair, gentlemen. What were you guys getting into earlier? Again, my apologies for not being one time.
Actually, you missed the best part for you to miss. We were talking about what it was like to be a vendor, but
yeah,
there was a question that you can answer. So
maybe.
Bryce, you all right there?
I don't know where was Jeff for lunch is what I want to know. Yeah, like a 2-hour lunch. He's on fire this afternoon. I can smell his breath from here.
I'll tell you offline. What do you say?
So we were wondering about what kind of budget dealers might have going into next year with everything that's been so nuts this year. Does it seem out of the norm at all?
I don't think so. No, I mean we've cut, at least for us, we've cut back. If anything, get back into some other marketing. We really cut our paid search back. I mean, any type of print. I mean, we are an old school Mercedes dealership. We do have a few magazines that we work with in the Frederick area. So, yeah, we got a few ads, but we cut all those out. I don't know if we'll go back to them though. It's sometimes you advertise because, especially with magazines, radio, and TV, some of your more traditional outlets. I think a lot of times you end up doing it just because of the connections that you have, or the relationships with those companies. Advertising. Maybe you've had the same rep for 10 years, and maybe you go out to dinner. Maybe you go to a conference together. So I find a lot of times people just keep on advertising with someone just because they like them.
We used to at Checkered Flag. My grandfather had a particular news station that was almost always on in their house. So even though the buyers would always say that we didn't really have any shoppers on that station, we still had to advertise there so he could see the ads.
It didn't matter because he was on there. He listened to it. He went to hear himself.
No, well, he wasn't in the ads. He just wanted to see the ads.
Well, yeah. Well, same way with the billboard. Put the big billboard up there on Route 40. The owner drives by it every day. The GM drives by it. Makes them feel good.
So
There's
it sounds a
value
lot
to that.
like Trade Pending's advertising strategy.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time you turn around, there's some type of weird
billboard with Bryce's face on it.
Some weird campaign going on.
Well, that's actually
Stuffed
true in your
animals.
case, Jeff. Turn around.
If you can integrate.
Turn around. Oh, the monkey?
No, you got Trade Pending on the top of your monitor.
Yeah, I'm always trying to show Bryce and Joe some love. I got dealer teamwork down here. I got this company up there.
Yeah, we like that company too.
Yeah, they're all right. Customer service could be a little better.
Yeah. I advise not speaking to the CEO. He sucks.
I'm going straight to the owner after this call. What else were you guys talking about?
Oh man,
Lack
virtual
of conferences. Yeah, and trying to figure out how
what?
Lack of conferences. So NADA being virtual.
You know, I hadn't been to a conference in over 3 years now.
And he hasn't learned anything in 3 years either. That's my point.
Well, I may not disagree with you. All my learnings come from you, Alex, and John Berna.
Well, you're in a hell of an echo chamber, man.
I know.
You never leave.
That's why I haven't learned that much.
And he's still advertising in magazines because he likes his rep.
Yeah, she's pretty.
So what do you would you do a virtual NADA, Jeff? In your organization?
I don't know how they would pull that off. Is there a software platform that can handle that?
Have we received any of those details yet?
No, I haven't received.
I don't think so.
Just pricing, right?
Just pricing.
Are you?
Yep.
Will you be participating, Bryce? Joe?
We are. Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna try like crazy. We do.
A virtual booth.
Yeah. Well, we had the sweetest booth location ever in the NOLA Convention Center, and now we have a virtual booth, which so far has just been a landing page.
Is it right beside the coffee shop so you can grab customers and potential people? Yeah,
it's where the massage chairs are, the virtual massage chairs.
Perfect.
And you don't have to speak Chinese to talk to your neighbors?
Yeah.
You know, that back part of NADA? Oh, sorry.
And we've hired the Alpine marketing crew to help stop the virtual booth. So. We're just tying it all together here. Jeff remembers Alpine Marketing's booth, obviously.
Yeah. There was I saw it.
Here's an idea. Sorry, Jeff, but here's an idea for you. We were trying to figure out if we could just get dealers to gather in a conference room, order a couple pizzas, Grubhub a bunch of meals, send a bottle of bourbon, whatever it takes, to get dealers to
bourbon and pizza.
ADA, just stop, pause, go have lunch, sit around, let's talk, and hopefully it's customers too, because we see half of our traffic in our NADA booth is usually customers coming by to say hi. What do you have to do? Giving us good ideas as well. It's that dialogue that I feel like we're really going to be missing out, and I think dealers are going to miss out on it too because they don't get to go see their vendors. Tell them what they're trying to achieve.
Hey, I tell you, that was always something that I look forward to. I've always worked with great vendors and love the opportunity to sit down with them and continue to build a relationship. So I don't know.
We'll Grubhub you some Arby's, Jeff.
Will you do that for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
There was I saw a question pop up, Alex, something about the placement of call to actions on the VDP. Does that have any influence? Have you guys seen anything around that? Where do you prefer the trade call to action at?
So we prefer the trade to look organic.
Are you one of those companies that wants it in every single, like 4 times on the VDP, 6 times on the SRP, 2 times in each of the top nav?
We're the original organic top banner. See us and forget us if you want. But on the VDP, we have 2 proofs of concept. So one, there's a lot of fixed VDPs in the right that have the pricing information and the calls to action, right? So we greatly prefer, and we've seen better engagement with the superlatives badges that we're putting are right next to price. Here's the car, pretty pictures. Here's the deal, right? Here's the what. Here's the why. Superlatives. Now let's do the deal. So, it's very easy to ascertain yourself. If you go on any other online shopping experience, how do they marry all the what with the offer and the why, and then the call to action to add it to the cart or to inquire on the asset. And we just try to mimic that. Value your trade, which is indeed the secondary call to action. It is the secondary call to action. We choose that to be in a secondary location.
Is it really? I mean, is it the second call to action that people engage with?
It's a secondary. Yeah. Secondary. Primary is let's buy a car. Let's find a car that I want. Number 2 reason, though, and certainly the secondary call to action should be value trade. That doesn't mean that we can't generate a hell of a lot of leads, which every dealer that we have looks in their CRM and sees hundreds, of trade opportunities, all traffic dependent, of course.
Did you guys get the text message? I got the text message once or twice, and then that was it. This customer support question.
Yeah.
You were supposed to have a hookup when someone traded something in of maybe a certain, of maybe like a certain year, make, model. It would text a sales manager rather than, it would also go into the CRM as a lead, but it would give a quick text message to the general manager or the used car appraiser real quickly. So then they had that information right in front of them, and maybe they can do something with it.
That was the idea you had last time I was on that we still haven't built for you.
That's right. We were supposed to race to build that, weren't we?
Thanks for the reminder, Jeff.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Consider that idea documented again.
Yeah, I'll consider it done next year this time.
No.
I will say too that one of the
I know you guys are working on it.
Actually, you can do this, Jeff. You get ADFs that come into eLead.
Yeah, but here's the deal. The format that comes to me via text is not very pretty. It's sort of jumbled
ADF
up.
And it comes via text. It's
yes,
too much information.
Well, sometimes it's information's cut off.
Yeah.
Too little information, or if it's too much, it'll get cut off.
Yeah,
so it's never. Matter of fact, I hate. And I don't know. Maybe I have it set up wrong. I don't think I do, but I hate the text alerts, because at least with eLead, not to call them out or anything, but it's just the formatting's horrible.
I think ADF is just kind of a cumbersome format, right?
Yeah, you think they would have it figured out where it's just name, first name, last name, and actually be able to read it. Sometimes there's weird gibberish in the information. It's just not good. But again, maybe I have it set up wrong. I don't think so. If anyone knows, maybe post it on Facebook.
Or on Dealer Refresh.
Facebook. Dealer Refresh Facebook.
That'd save us a lot of dev time if you could figure out how to do that, Jeff.
What? Do your job?
Yeah. Yeah, and if you could document it and send it over to us, that'd be great. And then we could share it with everybody.
I will. Yes. Yeah, I won't. I won't even invoice it. It's free.
All right.
You guys are killing me.
Man.
So what else? What else? Was there anything else you guys talked about? I know it's 2:02, and I feel like I just got started.
That's because you did. Actually, today I'm doing another virtual conference, and I'm talking about how what classic rock can teach us about consumers. I'm doing that on the driving sales thing in an hour. So,
oh wow,
we got to go.
How's
hit
that
the
going?
makeup chair before that.
Yeah, you need some prep time.
Did you guys discuss? Did you discuss driving sales?
Yeah, well, this is it. So we'll have something to report next week. Everybody's doing a little bit of differently. Some have pre-recorded sessions with like follow-on Q&As. This is like pure live, single take, session. So we'll see how it goes.
Ballsy.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who does live, single takes. Okay.
Well, a live audience. A live audience is a lot more lot more forgiving. For some reason, wandering around a stage is a lot easier than just staring down the barrel of your computer. So.
All right, Brady Bunch.
Right. Well, it sounds like we should let you guys go and get ready for that.
Yeah, just gotta get his makeup on.
Always fun to hang, guys. Thanks again.
Always.
You got it. See you guys soon.
And 45,995 more, and you get your microphone.
Excellent.
Sweet.
All right. See y'all
Gift
later.
wrapped.
Good luck.